Bit triggered by this one.
I do find it hard to talk to other men about my feelings.
To receive that is a whole different conversation. So my name's Ayo Akimoleri. I am 38 years old and I'm from Birmingham.
My name is Hassan Al-Hassani. I am 34. I've come from southwest London, but I'm originally from Guildford in Surrey.
My name's Ben, I'm 23 and I'm from Telford.
My name's Tate, I'm 23 and I'm from southeast London.
My name is Sheikh Sheriff. I'm 24 years old and I'm from Hackney, East London.
My name is Justin. I am 28 and I'm from Croydon, London.
My name is Toby Horner. I'm 32 and I'm from North Greenwich.
I'm Ollie. I'm 29 years old. I'm from London.
My name is Callum J. I'm 21 years old. I'm from South London.
If you were on a desert island on your own for 1 year, what would you bring with you?
That's a tricky one. Just one thing.
One thing.
Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. It's a really nice book.
Picture of my family, so I didn't get lonely.
Definitely a PSP. If I'm there for a year, I need just that one little game and like a little generator, and that's it. And I'm cool. Yeah.
I'd probably have to bring some music, I think. Yeah, music.
Every old Hollywood movie that I love.
That's a really tough one. Probably a few books and whatnot.
And a limited supply of grapes.
Probably bring my blender because there'll be a lot of fruit out there and I love a juice.
One thing, I'll just my phone then, because with your phone you can get everything else, right?
How do you think COVID affected you mentally and emotionally?
It made me look deeper into why I do things and who I am. And I think especially it didn't help me with social interaction. I had to feel like I had to rebuild what it was to communicate and connect with people again.
Personally, it's affected me socially, like in the way that we interacted with one another. I kind of lost how we interact. So obviously you've had to take that big change of being distant and that connection's a little bit less now.
I went deep in the pandemic. Emotionally, first time I've been by myself for a long time. Mentally, yeah, I realised I've got ADHD, so yeah, it was a really interesting journey, sure.
Looking back, I think it affected me more than I realised at the time. I spent most of the period distracting myself and trying to get on with work and other things. But actually, I think I became a more irritable and difficult person to be around. It affected some of my personal relationships and I moved away from who I authentically wanted to be.
Bit triggered by this one. I was actually living in Singapore. I'd moved to do a secondment with work, and already a huge life experience was made really quite difficult by being alone, straight into a lockdown in a new country, didn't know anyone. So it took quite a while for me to get out of quite a challenging space during that period. But yeah, it was interesting. I learned a lot about myself, let's say.
It left me alone with my thoughts for a lot. I had a lot of self-reflection and I lost a lot of friends as well, but I made a lot of great ones too.
It was okay. I had my friends and family close to me, but not being able to see everyone every day made things a little tough.
I feel like the pandemic pushed me to be a greater version of myself. I spent a lot of time alone during the pandemic, owning my skills, practicing my crafts, and I came out of the pandemic with a whole bunch of new skills and abilities ready to share with the world.
For me, it was a chance to kind of relax and take a break from what's going on, and it was the first time which I actually enjoyed London and enjoyed where I lived and enjoyed who I was, and being able to connect with family and reassure them, because we live such busy lives. So COVID was such a, even though a stressful time, it was a period of really kind of freedom and like mental kind of alignment for me.
What does loneliness feel like?
Loneliness to me, it just feels like you're in a battle by yourself, and sometimes that you're losing that battle.
It's quite a dark place, and often you don't really know where to turn, where to go, how you're going to get out of that hole, and it can feel a little scary at times.
Just feels like bleak, like a cloud. You don't really know where you are, where you're going.
It's almost like a void, I think. Big void that's like you feel like there's something missing in your life and that you need something more.
For me, loneliness most often feels like I am not where I'm supposed to be.
For me, I guess it just feels like you're not fully yourself, and there's moments when maybe you can't attribute why that is or why you feel like that, but just moments when you're not present, when you're absent. That's how I would describe loneliness, I think, for me.
Never being fulfilled, even in a group full of people.
Now loneliness doesn't feel so bad. Loneliness used to feel kind of crazy because I work in the media, so trying to constantly fill your life up with lots of stuff. And actually, the pandemic was really interesting because I had to be by myself. So actually, loneliness has evolved over the years now. I'm easy with it, man.
It's just like a deep feeling in your stomach, like, you know, it sits and it just drags you away from everyone. It's like your whole body's just like, nah, I don't want to be around people. I don't even want to feel around people. I don't want to do anything around people. Loneliness is like, it's like in your stomach. It's like a hole in your stomach.
Do you find it hard to talk to other men about your feelings?
Nah, I'm in a band and all my friends are just as emotional as I am, and we write songs together and we share them, and we definitely know how each other are feeling after that. So yeah, nah, I find it very easy to talk to men about my feelings.
Personally, I don't find it hard talking to other men about my feelings. Whether other men want to receive that is a whole different conversation. So I'm open. Not all men are open to the conversation. That's what I'm finding as I'm growing older.
To be honest, I'm quite I'd say an extrovert person, big groups of friends, and I'm quite open about how I feel sometimes, but even to that extent, you find yourself subjects that you never really properly feel comfortable about raising. Either you feel like you're going to sound silly, or that you'll feel like people won't understand what you're talking about, or whether to be able to relate to that. So I'd say that there's conversations that would always be off the table in my head, however comfortable you feel talking to somebody or talking to your friends. But I think particularly amongst men, there's things that you're likely to hide or not talk about a lot more so than with other people, perhaps.
I do find it hard to talk to other men about my feelings a lot of times, just because I feel there is kind of I'm okay and I can regulate myself, or like I want to be my own hero a lot of the times. So I do have open conversations, and especially with my my best friend who is a guy. I do connect with him, but at times like there is a sort of like I think like there's the hidden male kind of thing going on where we're in competition with our feelings a lot of the times. Of like we're okay, if that made any sense at all.
I think men especially, I think I've been quite difficult with my own experience in the past and whatnot, but I think now, I think I'm getting a lot better at it, and I think it's with my role and stuff now, I think I use my experiences for the better, so that's kind of how I look at it now.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. I think most men would find it hard to talk to other men about their feelings, and I think it's something we've never really been taught how to do. So I think there's so much progress to be made.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to open up, especially to men, for the fear of what they're going to think. Maybe if they're going to judge you not coming across manly, it's often a little hard to express those thoughts and feelings that you're bottling up, especially to men.
Yeah, I would say I do. Didn't grow up with a lot of men around. Grew up around a lot of female energy, and my relationship with older men is not great because of my relationship with my dad is absent, it's not there. So I think, yeah, speaking to men is definitely not second nature to me, but I'm growing to love it more. I'm growing to embrace it more.
That is
a long minute.
Square times up. Wow, that is
Well
moving.
done. Amazing.
That is moving, bro.
You got it. You know, it was money up.
It was a vibe. Well done. That was, wow.
Intense.
Yeah.
That was sick. Smart, no?
Don't look at me.
I've never felt my lip quiver so much.
I know.
All right, let's start with this first envelope. What have we got here? Wrong way around. Do you ever feel lonely, and how does it affect you? Who wants to start this one off? Do you ever feel lonely, and how does it affect you?
I think I'll start.
Go on.
I think I've moved up to a new town in the last year, and from my relationship didn't work out. So obviously now I'm kind of in that point of not knowing anybody with COVID as well. It's been quite difficult, I think, with everyone not, everyone's kind of lost that social connection, haven't they, about how you connect and, going out and stuff's not as normal now, etc. And it's trying to find yourself in that new city and new town. It's been quite difficult. And I think it has left a bit of a void in me and whatnot. And I think I've been embezzling myself in my work to keep myself going. And I think that's kind of getting me through at the moment.
It's interesting. Lonely's a fascinating one because I'm at the age now where a lot of people my age are now all married and like all that kind of stuff, and I'm newly in a relationship, but I've been single for a fair bit of time, and you quickly realise there's no one to go out with, like there's no one to do stuff with because they've got their girlfriends, 100%. They've got their children, everyone's got lives, and I never thought I'm like many people, I kind of occupy my life with so many things, whether it be social engagements or like travel or bits and pieces. But the last year or two have been kind of like, where is everyone? Where have they all gone? Does anyone ever feel that?
I recently split up with my girlfriend and never really thought about it before. But now all of a sudden, all of my friends have relationships. And it's difficult because you don't necessarily want to get in touch with them because you think that they've got their own life. And now I don't have so much going on with mine. You kind of, I don't know.
Mate, absolutely.
It's hard to reach out to them.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when they reach out as well, sometimes I'm like, are they reaching out because they want to? Or are they like, he's got nothing to do, so I better give some time over to him, but they'd rather be with their missus or doing something else. Like I don't know, it's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy sometimes. You're like, I'm lonely and therefore I feel detached from the world and therefore I'm going to pull away from the world as well. And also admitting that you feel lonely, like you made the point, like I think for a long time I was scared to admit to myself that I was lonely. Like just put the word next to my name, so it was much easier to run away from that and go, do you know what, I feel a bit sad, or I'm a bit tired today, or whatever it might be, instead of sitting back and going, do you know what, I'm empty, and that feeling is loneliness.
Yeah, I think for me, like, this might sound a bit odd, but I feel the times I feel most lonely is at a certain time of like, for example, I'm coming back from work and there's a certain part when I get off the bus and I'm doing this little weird walk and I feel really lonely. I go to reach my phone to call somebody and I go through my list of people and then I make up all the excuses in my head why I won't call them or they won't pick up. And it's just so strange. It's the same part. I get off the bus and I've diagnosed it and I was like, I'm always feeling lonely at this point. And I always say, okay, let me wait till I get a partner, I can call them. And then again, I just think, you know what? I can't then put my feeling of loneliness in somebody else. And when I that thing, and I'm not a lonely person. I think I'm very popular. I've got a lot of friends.
All right, calm down. Living life over here. I'm a boss, boy.
I'm very humble. But I was very lonely. I'm very humble. It's off the bus at the same time. But I said again, it's kind of like, yeah, just sitting with it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think you both made a really good point there, right? Like you can be popular and you can have this great life, and you can feel like you've got so much going on around you and still feel lonely. Like they're not mutually exclusive at the end of the day, and I think that I feel that way sometimes.
When I feel lonely, I kind of I do this thing where I super invest into myself, and then I'm I'll pick up a new habit or I'll pick up a new hobby and stuff, or I'll just go really into something I'm already into. So I play basketball, I paint, I make music. So if I'm feeling lonely, I really just kind of push all those feelings into one of those vessels and just let it through one of those vessels.
But you know, it's interesting. I was speaking to someone about this recently, and I don't think a lot of people like sitting with it. And that's also the thing when you create the distractions or we're overly popular, because sitting with it requires you to actually reflect on the fact that you are lonely. I'm very similar to you actually. Music's the one for me, or whether it be football or something along those lines. I've always said to people, we need to connect ourselves with hobbies that take us away from what everyone else expects of us. Hobbies, things you're passionate about.
I don't know, you mentioned age earlier, and I'm in my early 30s, and I reflect now after this period of my 20s thinking there's actually no blueprint for how you're supposed to grow up and feel about yourself. And I think the times when I've actually felt the most lonely or the most down have been when maybe I haven't met goals in my head of where I thought that I would be at a certain point. And you have these feelings of by the time I'm 30, I'm going to be married or I'm going to have kids. And when it doesn't always work out like that, you have these moments when you feel, God, I haven't achieved what I should be doing.
Which is so stupid. That you're thinking in your head that you need to have hit these goals.
Yeah. What do you think? I know you reminded me earlier that you're a decade younger than me, so when it comes to social.
Just to echo your point, I think
I embraced my loneliness. I think I felt lonely ever since I was a child. Like I've always been an outsider, and then growing up and realising that I was trans, that was such a big part of my loneliness because I felt like the only trans man around in Essex. And then I moved to London, and then I realised there was this whole other support network out there for me, and unfortunately not having the support of my family then led me to creating my own support network. So I actually feel lonelier when I'm in a big room full of people. So I live on my own, I have my own flat, but that's my downtime. That's my time to reflect on the day and just have peace of mind. When I feel loneliest is when I'm in a big room full of people and so no one's taking notice.
Do you know what? We've got another 3 questions to go.
Yeah.
Should we do this? Go on then.
All right. Number 2. Do you like a drum roll or something?
God.
What do you do when you feel lonely?
I don't really drink much any longer, and that affects Friday and Saturday nights because all my friends are out drinking. So I find myself alone on Friday and Saturday nights often, and sometimes I'm trying to distract myself, but maybe just sitting with it.
Self-care. That's what we all need, and everybody's self-care is different. It's not all going out, it's not all being with your mates, it's meditation, it's yoga, it's listening to music, it's watching films, doing stuff that brings you back to your childhood. That's what my therapist recommends. Real
talk. I was on Blue Peter for 5 years. It's like my first ever TV gig, and
Is that where I know you?
is that where you know me from? I knew it, right? He was looking at me weird. I was like, do I know you, bro? Don't you start, because that's trauma now. That's triggering. That's all triggering. I'm DJing FYL. Yeah, I'm doing the circuit at universities. And do you know what's mad? I left that program, right? And basically everything we're talking about just came crashing down fundamentally. Like, literally saw 118 different cities around the world, like constantly on TV, doing lots of stuff that was deflecting away from like the inner child fundamentally. In a weird way, I was kind of living like a child as well, because like, that ended. And I had a massive identity crash, like literally almost as soon as that job ended. And fundamentally, in the same way as I should have looked ahead and thought, what's going to happen when you leave something you've been in for 5 years that's been all-encompassing part of your life? I just steamrolled ahead and I was like, nah, man. Do you know what I mean? And I was not expecting it. And it was going to the therapy that really just really allowed me to reconnect. But also back to what we've been talking about in terms of loneliness, what you do, it's actually addressing that there's a lot of work still to be done in this moment. The reason you had that crash is because you haven't built the building blocks emotionally as a human, as a man, to get you through situations like this.
Like, looking back is very important, unpacking that inner child, but also looking forward as well.
Exactly.
And I liken life to like a roller coaster, and my feelings and emotions, and you're always it's up and down, and like preempting that you're gonna be down, but you're going to come back up again.
It's interesting you mentioned that, in particular around your childhood, and I don't know if you feel the same, but you have this, when you're growing up, you have this kind of blissful time when you're a child, when you're not aware of the social constraints that you're about to meet around what is being masculine or feminine or a boy or a girl or whatever. And a really kind of poignant moment in my life is that when I was younger, I used to be really interested, and my absolute passion was performance and drama and dance, and I pursued it, and my family was so supportive in kind of guiding me on that. And I got to a point where I just realised that I couldn't do that anymore. I realised that it wasn't what people or friends were expecting me to be doing. And I had this moment when my parents were out, and I just threw away all of the stuff that was associated with this hobby of mine, particularly dance. Might give you a demo later on. It was this moment when I had to throw away this part of myself. It's honestly, it's quite funny now I look back at it, is that I used to have dance lessons, and then straight afterwards I'd put my dance shoes away and I'd have football practice, and I'd put my football boots on. And I think at that point, that was the moment when I knew that you're not always going to have to be able to do things that you really want to. And it's sad that I look back at that and actually Cool. Think that that's something that I kind of had to deal with, and I came out as gay about 10 years ago, and I feel like a part of my journey a little bit is almost kind of unpicking some of the stuff that you've come to learn about what you think you should be and what you should do. So the childhood and masculine and feminine energy for me is something that has been, I think, a core part of my identity, and it's been a real learning journey, but to the point where it's sad that you're not always in a position where you can reject some of the things that you see from society and expectations to be able to say, actually, I'm comfortable enough in myself to be able to go through with it and power through. And yeah.
I really touch on what you're saying with sort of you coming out, and I work in sport right now. I work in football, and it's really interesting watching that particular brand of masculinity continually being perpetuated through the industry, through the players. And you can see it in people's eyes who just want to be a bit different, but they just can't because the institution doesn't allow them to be that. And it's really scary because we talk about loneliness. Like that's just driving someone into a dark hole in which they're not able to come out of, just to keep this paradigm of I'm a sportsman and this is what I do.
I would say is that off the back of talking about sport is that there's some incredible like gay and inclusive sports teams. I've played for a gay rugby team for a few seasons, and it's just reconnecting again with something that could have previously been something quite negative and turning it into a positive.
That sounds like a pretty good segue into the next question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it you? Is it you? Come on then.
It's a big responsibility.
Take your time, hurry up.
Interesting. Do you think social media has made us a more lonely society?
Yes, move on.
Job done.
I think it's just quite sad how like all these social media platforms have been created to bring people together and give people a voice, but then it's like sometimes it gives people too much of a voice that they isolate themselves. Sometimes it gives people sometimes it just gives people too much insight into what's going on in other people's lives. Like, I don't feel like you're supposed to know exactly what Drake does every day. You're not supposed to really know the ins and outs of what his house looks like. But due to social media, it's not just an episode of Cribs anymore. It's like every day you can see his house, you can follow him. DJ Khaled, you see him, you can see his beautiful garden every day. And I feel like as a result, people just have isolated themselves so much more, and they kind of decide who they hang out with based on what they're doing on social media. How good does your social media look? Does that benefit my social media? Because there's this thing called social capital that everybody's chasing nowadays. You know what I mean? Everyone's chasing social capital and want to have more followers, more likes, more in engagement on their pages. And it's like people end up having friendships, whole networks of friendships just based on, oh, you have a cool social media page, so we're all gonna link up and just build our social capital together.
Fantastic.
Do you know what? This is a really random kind of angle on this, but I think it's relevant. And it was something by Jordan Peterson actually, but about porn, men and porn, right? Didn't think I was going to go there.
Open it up, bro.
Let's open it up.
Let's go. Open it up. There's a thing that's on the internet.
You may have heard of. But the point is that when we talk about people being kind of more disconnected and lonely, if you like, when you think about the prevalence of porn, right? A boy these days, a teenage boy, can see more stunningly beautiful women than a man 30 years ago would ever see in his life within 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes. And then you think, if you juxtapose that onto social media, and you think you can see so many versions of life, so many different success stories and all these different reels, etc., painting a picture that would be wholly unrealistic within 10 minutes of scrolling through Instagram that you would never have been exposed to 30 years ago. Would literally not have been in your psyche. That must have done something, you know? It must have changed us somehow. I don't know how, but it's something I think we need to consider, because we're in a position right now where we have too much coming at us that we actually can't figure out where we fit into all of it.
I think it's just a constant, like Instagram is just a constant battering of you not being good enough. Because everyone you see is got more, apart from a few, everyone you see has got more followers, can, depending on what sort of way you're navigating your page, is better at navigating your page, and you're constantly trying to get more pieces of them and start trying to be a bit more like them. And everything that you see, it's just like, I don't know, you just feel like you're not good enough, or I need to do more to get to their level.
But the really interesting thing is, social media capital does not equal success. And it's like, I've been trying to get this through to people a lot, because you're living two lives fundamentally. Real talk, there's a lot of entrepreneurs making serious money. You don't see them on social media. My question is, if you've got that much time to post on social media, like, what's going on in your actual life? Do you know what I mean? But then you've got this flip, which is perpetuated by influencer culture. But fundamentally, are you happy? Fundamentally, are you giving time to yourself? What are we validating here?
Right, the final question.
Final one.
All right, here we go, bro. Here we go.
Boy. Is opening up to a group of strangers easier than opening up to people close to you, and why?
100%.
Yes.
100%.
They don't know anything about
They don't know
it. There's no
Literally.
inhibitions.
Yeah.
And I feel like we are now in a culture where oversharing is acceptable. Now we're coming out of the pandemic. I feel like
No such thing as an overshare, man.
I feel like everybody, that's why I put the rabbit quotes, because people like to call it that, but I don't see it that way. But what I love is that people are opening up now more because of the pandemic, because there's more of a wellness culture coming about now, but we've still got so much further to go. But I find it easy.
It is easier. I guess it's, the reason why we bottle so much up is the fear of we're going to be judged and what people will think of us, and we think our friends or our family, they're going to put more judgment, or they're going to think of us of what we've done or how we're feeling. Whereas you guys don't really care what I've done. You know, it's it makes it easier.
But also based on the circumstances, we're all here together to try and figure something out, right? And actually having that space to be open does allow others to share. But like genuinely, like I've got close friends that I definitely feel if you went, do you want to just go for dinner, bro, and just like talk through life? Good luck. Good luck. To be fair, even with my older brother, like close as he is to me, like we're thick as thieves, man. Just be like, bro, like let's just go for lunch, man. Like talk me through, like it actually scares me a little bit still.
Like sometimes they're the hardest.
And I'm quite open, yeah.
Sometimes the close ones are the hardest ones, right? Particularly family, man. What do you think?
I think it's like what you said about expectations, and sometimes people around us, they have an expectation of us, or we hold them to a certain account where we don't feel we can be open. I think in my personal life, I've seen that even those closest to me are sometimes the cause of some of my pain. So it can be difficult to open up about that when even the people that you might, as you're opening up, they might not be ready to open up and unpack with
They
you.
might not have the capacity
The
to
capacity
take in
to-
what you're saying without
exactly.
judging you.
Exactly.
If it is easier for you to open up to a group of strangers, then you need to reevaluate your immediate circle, because I feel like nobody should be around people that you are afraid to open up around, or you should have people that like have a small capacity that can't understand what you're saying and not make it personal. I feel like you gotta reevaluate your circles if you cannot open up to
Maybe
your
it is
people.
how you feel about yourself. I'm just thinking, say my dad, for instance, say he was really struggling. I think he would find it very difficult to open up to me and talk about his feelings, because he wants to paint this picture of a strong, stable father.
Yeah.
I think we're done.
Cool.
Ben, how are you feeling in this moment?
Strangely connected. It's a weird feeling, isn't it? It's not like you know, we spoke about some really in-depth things today, and I think it's like it seems like we've known each other for years. Like the way we spoke today, it's a really weird feeling.
Tate, how are you feeling in this moment?
I feel really euphoric. I feel like I've talked through some great things that I've needed to for quite a while with some really, really great people.
Ollie?
I feel lighter.
Wow.
Literally the word I was
Go on, lads. Go on, lads.
Yo, being a man is hard, but today it was very easy. It was very easy to be a man today.
Yeah, it's a vibe, you know. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's interesting because I just wish I could have this kind of space with like the boys. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's just do it. You know, why not? But yeah, lighter, really good word.
I mean, I echo what everyone said in Lifted, man. What a group of boys and what a conversation.
Just feel really blessed to be able to be in this space with amazing people and hear amazing stories.
Yeah. I think I feel empowered, and there's a power in just like listening to everybody. I just wanted to observe and just listen and hear what everyone's saying. I don't feel lonely in a sense. I feel like I'm connected with people that understand. Yeah, so understood.
Totally. I'd say I feel obviously lighter. Just I guess content and balanced.
Yeah.
I feel like it just feels like the struggles that you put on yourself, the pressures. You're not by yourself going through those. There's so many shared kind of themes and connections, and actually we're doing a good job. I think it's difficult. Some of the stuff we've been talking about is difficult, and I just feel, I guess, happy and lighter and content and happy in myself.
Can I just say thank you, by the way, for what you said? Like, when you got emotional, like, I was like,
I made that up for the cameras as well.
I splashed water in your face, right, little? Nah, that was really powerful, bro. And like, especially being so public with it as well. It's like, you know, I think every single person here felt that. It's really, really powerful of you to do.
Should I have a group huddle?
Yeah.